Well, good morning, everyone, on this fabulous sunny, where you out from? Sunny Monday in March. Lovely spring day. It's going to be quite warm today, actually, apparently. So yeah, looks like we've turned the corner in terms of winter. So just wanted to do a quick live video, quick live training. I've just been interviewed on Talk Radio with Paul Ross. Which is a national radio station, which is pretty cool. So I've just been interviewed by Paul, and they were talking about the obesity epidemic, because there was a report this morning about the obesity epidemic and how it's affecting this country, particularly in terms of the numbers. I think it was something like 1 in 4 now is classed as obese. And we're the fattest in Europe, apparently, according to the statistics. And so, which was interesting, obviously. And I was on there because, obviously, as you probably know, I've lost my 5 stone, and I've kept it off now for about 11 years, nearly 12 since I started my journey. So I was on there and I was asked about that, and what do we need to do, and people were talking about how do we deal with the obesity epidemic. And there was an interesting story that Paul said about a guy who basically was something like 10 stone overweight and had to get his own special dentist chair done and all this sort of thing, and what he actually did to lose the weight. I think it was 9 stone he lost, and he basically was saying that he'd locked himself away from the world for 4 months. So it took a sabbatical from work, and basically locked himself away from the world. And Paul sort of said to me, "What did you do back in the day, back in 2005 when I did this?" Well, it wasn't. I couldn't unfortunately take a sabbatical from work, but it was fairly similar, really, in terms of I did lock myself away from the world for a good 3-4 months in terms of getting done what I needed to get done, and focusing on more on myself and actually what I needed to change. Because actually, when I started losing weight all those years ago, what was quite obvious was that my diet and exercise was wrong. Particularly, my diet was wrong, and I wasn't exercising enough. So that sort of stuff was fairly obvious, to be fair. It was more about this, and it was more about the mindset and how I changed it. And that was the point I was trying to make to Paul, really, that ultimately I had to change the way I saw myself and had to change what I thought was possible for myself and what I could do, rather than actually just change my tactics. Because obviously, if you're overweight or you're not currently achieving what you need to achieve in terms of body composition or fitness, well, it's probably fairly obvious that your diet and exercise isn't perhaps where it should be. The key really is how you approach it from a mindset perspective. So you'll see in the description I've put work harder than you do on your diet. Well, one concept that was introduced to me all those years ago when I started was the concept that you need to work harder on yourself than you do on the thing that you're doing. So in this case, you'd work harder on you than you do on your diet. Because truth be told, there's all this confusing information out there, but sustainable weight loss is actually fairly simple. It's never easy, trust me. It's not easy. It's quite hard, particularly as you get older. But it is quite simple. But the focus has to be on as much on you as it is in terms of what you do. So in terms of the way you think. So, Paul said to me, "How do you coach somebody through the weight loss process?" And I just said, "Well, you take them on one step at a time. You don't go from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. You take them at one step at a time and show them gradual results and gradual progress. Because if you show them gradual results and gradual progress, they're more likely to convince themselves or see themselves as somebody that can stick to things. If you don't see yourself as somebody that can stick to anything, well, you never will, because that's the vision and the viewpoint you have of yourself. So, when I get asked the question about what I did all those years ago to lose the weight that I've lost, well, I worked harder on me. And this is an ongoing process, by the way. It's not something you can pick up and put down. You can pick up and put down a diet. Anybody can go on a diet. It's actually quite easy to go on a diet, to follow instructions. Now, obviously, getting results and sticking to it, that's not the easy bit. But actually picking up a book or going to a slimming club or whatever it might be, following a diet is actually quite straightforward. You've just got to follow it. But where does everybody go wrong? Well, that was the question that was asked. Where is everybody going wrong? It's not that people are lazy. It's not that people are indisciplined or demotivated, because nobody wants to be obese. Nobody wants to be fat. But what are the key differences? Well, the key differences are that we're not focusing on how we think. We're not focusing on how we approach things. We're not focusing on our vision and our mindsets and how we see ourselves. Because if you don't see yourself as somebody that's ever going to lose weight, well, you never will. I wrote an email the other day called "What's the Point?", which is my classic one, which really sort of digs deep in people, which is basically, if you don't think there's any point doing it because you always go in the way or you can never break a certain point, well, you won't do it. You just will not stick to it because you won't see the point of doing it because you always fail. And that's the mindset, some of the mindset things you have to change. But you have to work as hard on you as you do on your exercise and your diet, otherwise you won't stick to anything. You have to ask yourself some tough questions about why are you where you are, what have you done to get where you are, and what was the level of thinking that's brought you here. Because when I did this, I've still got the journals in my bedside table that I had back in 2005, where I wrote down questions like, why did I do this to myself? And I knew my diet and exercise was off. I knew that's obvious. I knew that stuff was off, but I had to work as hard on myself as I did on anybody else or anything else. So that's the point about this when we make this thing about obesity and our weight and where everybody goes wrong. When I'm asked about it myself, it's like, well, that's as simple as it gets. It is literally a matter of you need to work as hard on you, your mindset, your self-image, the way you see yourself, as much as anything else. Because if you don't, you will fail at yet another diet and exercise program. And I see it time and time and time again. So the question you need to ask yourself is, why, if you're not where you need to be in any area, why did I do this to myself? What was going on? What is the level of thinking that's brought me here? Yeah? What's my attitude towards certain things? Because there's always going to be temptations, there's always going to be distractions, there's always going to be things that are going to knock us off. What keeps us on track is not some magic fairy dust or some magic formula, it's just the way we see ourselves, how we picture ourselves in our heads, and what expectations we have of us. So tip number one, if you want to change your life, let's start with body composition or weight or fitness, stage one is you need to work as hard on yourself as you do on your diet. Think about that one. Have a good day.